Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fun's Talk Storytime. This is our second episode of the Storytime series, and this time we're going to be talking about a camping trip I went on that ended in disaster. Oh boy. But before the video starts, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. I have many things I want to do in the future, and I can only get them done with your support. Thank you, everybody. Alright, anyways, let's get right into the story. So this happened probably 9 or 8 years ago. I was like 11, maybe 10, so a bit after the last event where my brother almost died. And I was on a camping trip with my dad, my brother, and guess who else? Yup, you guessed it. Greg was also on the trip with us. The same Greg that didn't save my brother. But don't worry, I'm sure he'll make himself more useful this time. But yeah, this was a 3 day long camping trip, I believe. It was probably like Labor Day weekend or something, and my dad was like, yeah, let's go camping. And, as kids, we loved that stuff, so we went for it. And we had a great time for most of the time. I remember, like, the first night was really good. We roasted marshmallows on the fire. We did all sorts of fun stuff, like running around in the dark playing Manhunt with like the four of us. Like I think my dad joined in too. But yeah, it was all great fun until the second day. Everything was all right until the second day. The second day started off pretty normally. We woke up at pretty early, probably at like 8 o'clock or something. Ate some breakfast over the fire. I'm pretty sure my dad like brought some like pots and pans so that we could cook eggs on the fire pit, which was pretty cool. After we ate, I think we rode around our scooters for a little while. This was a long time ago, and this is purely by memory. So like, I this whole area here is a little bit like iffy. Like I'm not 100% sure, but I know we had scooters, and I know there was a big hill there, so I'm assuming we rode our scooters around. Anyways, after a little while of doing that, I think my brother wanted to go up to the pool because this was a pretty casual camping ground. It was like, I mean, where we were, it was kind of deep in the forest, but if you drove back up towards like the main area, there was actually a pool that you could go in, and it was really nice. So my brother wanted to get in the water, and we all kind of just like agreed. So we decided to go up there. And there's one specific detail here that I am gonna have to mention. My friend told me while we were getting ready to go to take off my socks and shoes because we're going to the pool and just not even bring them. So I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So I rode my scooter up there barefoot. We all did actually. My brother, me, and Greg. And everything was going fine. I mean, it didn't like hurt or anything because it was just asphalt, and we were just going up the hill back to the main area. So everything was totally fine. Oh, and I should also point out my dad doesn't have a scooter, obviously, so he drove up like behind us. So after a little while, we make it to the top of the hill, and we go into the pool area, get in the water, have some fun, just do the usual pool stuff. I don't really remember much about it. And let's say a few hours later, we decide we want to go back down. And this campgrounds was basically just on a big hill. So like the lobby area where the pool was and everything was at the top of the hill, and all the campsites kind of went down the hill, and we were all the way at the bottom of the hill. So my friend Greg, me, and my brother were all like, let's ride down the hill together. And I remember my dad was kind of like nervous about that, but he didn't think too much about it because he wasn't paying attention to the fact that we didn't have socks on or shoes on. A little bit of foreshadowing there. So yeah, he was like, okay, go for it. But after a while, my brother actually changed his mind because my dad said, well, if you don't go down the hill, I'll let you come down in the back of my truck. My brother, for some reason, was really excited about that. So he like put a scooter in the back of the truck and went down that way. But me and Greg really wanted to go down the hill on our scooters. It looked like really fun and all that. So our dad was like, okay, go for it. And one detail I remember is that the way that we were going down was actually a one-way road that only went, like, people could only drive up it. So my dad had to go around like a long way to get down. So I remember him saying something like, okay, well, I'll see you down there in like 5 minutes. I gotta go this way. You guys can just go straight down to the campsite right now. And you're like, all right. So after a little bit, me and Greg get ready and we go right down the hill. We just like push, 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 and then put both feet on the scooter and just, glide down that hill because it was pretty steep. And so we're just going down the hill pretty fast and everything. Everything's going all right, though, at first. And then I remember we got to, like, this turn, this really sharp turn. So I started to brake. I put my foot on, like, the little metal part of the scooter, the brake. And this is where disaster kind of struck because as I was braking, I realized that the brake was getting really, really hot from the friction because the brake is basically just you push down on that metal thing and it rubs the little wheel to slow down the scooter. And so it was working, but it was getting so hot to the touch that it was actually starting to burn my foot. And as I kept doing it, it got hotter and hotter to the point where I literally could not keep my bare foot on it any longer. Greg, on the other hand, had like this different type of scooter with a really thick metal brake. Like, I don't know why, I just remember it being super thick, so he didn't have that problem. But yeah, so I eventually got to the point where I couldn't brake, and that started to freak me out. I remember I was going down the hill, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't brake, I can't slow down. And so I was like going around every corner, like super tight, and like just so fast. I was going so fast down that hill, turning, like, because it was kind of a weavy road going down a hill. And I was just like turning left, turning right, turning left, turning right. It's kind of freaking out. And I remember I started crying when I was going down because I remembered at the very bottom of all that, where our campsite is, the asphalt turns into gravel. And so I'm just like thinking, oh my God, there's no way to stop. I'm going to go straight into that gravel pit. And I was freaking out. So I was just going down the hill, zooming full speed, like 30 miles an hour. I don't know. And I was crying on the way down, and eventually I somehow don't fall while turning. I'm surprised. Honestly, I expected to like slide because I was turning so hard that I thought like the scooter would just slide out from under me and I'd fall, but I didn't. And eventually I get to the final straightaway, which is just a straight downhill to the gravel, and I see it there, and I'm just like thinking, can I jump off? No, I can't jump off because I'm barefoot. It's gonna mess my feet up really bad, and I'm going this fast. So I just stayed on it, kept crying, and braced for impact. Next thing you know, I am in the air. I hit the gravel, and there's like a little bit of a dip in the asphalt, like as it transitions to gravel. And so I just hit it, and I go flying off. And as I land, my like stomach hits a bunch of like glass and really pointy rocks, and so I like cut my side open, and I think I still have a scar there because it was a really, really deep cut. And I also like landed with half of my force on one of my kneecaps. Like I pretty much landed on my left kneecap. I remember that. And so that was also pretty messed up. It was bleeding really, really bad. But I remember I like landed, slid, and just like laid flat for a second, and then like because of all the adrenaline I hardly felt anything, so I jumped up, and I'm like all scuffed up, everything, my arms, my legs, everything is bleeding. And this like lady that was in the campsite next to us just comes like running towards me like, oh my God, are you okay, holy crap. Like she's freaking out, like literally freaking out, and I didn't really like think about it in the moment, but I must have looked really, really messed up. I couldn't feel it because of how like much adrenaline was going through me. So I like get up, I'm still crying, I'm like, no, get away from me, like just trying to push her away because I was like confused and disoriented. And she's like, oh my, what's your parents' number, I saw this, I knew this was gonna happen, blah 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 blah, just talking, and I'm like trying to push her away, and she like starts picking me up because she's trying to carry me back to the tent, like all in good intentions, of course, but I didn't want any of it. I was like, no, get off of me. And so I start walking back to the tent, like limping basically back to the tent on my own. And then that's when I like once I got in there, I actually looked down at myself and saw how much blood was on me. And that's when I really started freaking out because I got so nervous. I didn't like blood and all that. So I was just in the tent. I was like looking at the blood just pouring down from my kneecap because that's where it was bleeding the most. It was like literally just like a flood, a waterfall down my kneecap. I'm looking at that and I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be bad. I don't want to go to the hospital, please, no. And so I'm doing all that, and then a few minutes pass and my dad comes back, and apparently he told me the woman like ran up to his truck like freaking out, screaming, and my dad's like calm down, what's going on? And she's like, your son, he's hurt really bad in the tent, he wouldn't let me carry him, he fell, he hit the ground hard, blah blah blah. And so my dad runs into the tent and just sees me, and he's like, oh my God. And he's like, how'd that happen? I was like, I couldn't brake because of blah, blah, blah. And I explained everything. And so he like patched me up a bit. And he said we might have to go to the hospital because that gash that was on my side, it was on my like right side, kind of near my like hip, was really deep. And it was like purple and it was bleeding a lot. And so he's like, we might have to go to the hospital. And I remember that just made me cry even harder because I hate the hospital. I've always hated the hospital. And so that was just not something I wanted to hear. But eventually I fell asleep while crying because I don't know, I was just so done. Like my body was finished with all the torture it had gone through. So I fall asleep, and I wake up at nighttime. It's like 10 p.m. or something, pitch black out there, and I like limp outside, and I see my brother and Greg playing with a bunch of frogs, and I'm like, "Yo, let me in on that." And so I eventually, my dad asked how I was feeling and how the cut was and everything, and he looks at it and he's like, "Okay, we're not gonna have to go to the hospital. Don't worry, it stopped bleeding quicker than I thought it would." And I was like, "Thank God." But yeah, the third day of the trip was basically just me being physically impaired because I couldn't ride my scooter anymore. I could hardly walk, so I was just kind of like sitting around the third day, playing with frogs and random animals or creatures, I should say. But yeah, that was the trip, and Greg really solidified himself in this one as a character who doesn't provide much help, and in some cases provides harm. So yeah. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I did that entire story part in one take because I got so into it that I just kept going, and I didn't even realize that recording was like 10 minutes long before cutting it all down. So I hope you enjoy this video. I really had fun making it, and yeah, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and come back for more next week because that's probably when I'm gonna have my next video out. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.